tracking what's new and what's next for teams in your tenant. I'm Michael Blumenthal, Microsoft MVP. I'm the co-organizer of the Office 365 Adoption User Group, Chicagoland chapter. As a tenant administrator, you may often find yourself asking, what's going on in my tenant? Some of you may choose to phrase that a bit more colorfully. But for the context of this talk, we're not talking about usage analytics, but we're talking about answering the question, how do I know what's changing? And there's 4 ways to answer that, and it really depends on what your time frame is. If you're focused on the now and want to know what has already landed in your tenant, look for the in-product tips. If you're interested in what is coming soon, in the next 1 to 2 months, you need to review the message center. If you're interested in something that's a little farther out, a little farther down the road, 1 to 4 quarters out, then you should check the Microsoft roadmap. And then for a broader perspective, a combination of things that are landing immediately, which are of high value, as well as the future direction and things that may take 6 to 12 months to roll out. Watch the conference announcements, such as at Build, Microsoft Ignite, or SharePoint Conference, and then read the book of news from those events. So let's take a deeper look at the in-product tips to tell you what's already landed in your tenant. For Microsoft Office applications, you can find a What's New button for every application. For example, in Word, if you go to the File menu and then down to Account, you'll see the What's New button. And if you click on that, you'll get a task pane that pops up that shows you little news blurbs about all the new things in that version of Office. This is the same in Excel. Again, File, Account, What's New, PowerPoint, and in Outlook. Although in Outlook, it's the Office Account menu, and then the What's New button, again, off of the File menu. In Microsoft Teams, the navigation, of course, is a little different. There is no File menu, so you go down to the Help menu and go to What's New there, and then you'll see all the What's New announcements for Teams. For other products, such as Microsoft OneDrive or any of the web products, you'll often see little pop-ups and first-run experiences for new features. And so those are how you'll find out what is new. Those guided in-product pop-ups or the first-run experiences are those products' way of communicating to the user what's new in the current release. And again, with web products, those releases can happen daily, so you can get those at any time. Now to look a little farther ahead, what's coming out in the next 1 to 2 months, you need to be watching Message Center. So there's a lot of announcements in Message Center. On the day I visited this page, there were 202 announcements in Message Center. And on average, you can see there's 2 or more messages per day. So that means that on average, there's over 700 changes per year. That's a lot of stuff to go through. And for each of these messages, if you click on the message, you get all the details of that message. In those details, what you'll see is a rough idea of when the change will land. In this case, you can see starting near the beginning of October. Very rarely do you see an update that gives you a specific day that it turns on, although there are a few of those. More generally, what you see is a window of time. So you may see a change rolling out is generally available from, say, middle of September to early November, or from the middle of October to the end of October, or early of 1 month to some other point. But it's usually those 3 different categories: early, middle, or late of a given month, and then early, middle, or late of another month. So it'll give you a window of anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks on average for many of the changes to come through. In this announcement, you get your time window of when that change is going to affect, and then the details of when that's going to happen. You also have the ability to get the link to the message announcement, mark it read or unread, give positive or negative feedback. This is actually a very important capability right there, where if you have any feedback, this is where you can give it, and the product team that makes that particular feature gets that feedback. In my experience, a lot of the feedback actually it gets replied to within 3 or 4 days. So if you put in enough feedback and allow them to contact you via email, within a week you'll usually get a contact. You can also share this message post with other people in your organization by putting in their email addresses, and then it will email out a copy of it. This area is so important, and Message Center itself is frequently undervalued, or many people are unaware of it. Many tenant administrators are unaware of the importance of it. But it really is something that you need to review weekly. And that's a process that I put in place in the tenant that I manage. Every Monday, I pull together a team of people, our SharePoint administrators, our Exchange administrators, Power Platform administrators, everyone who could be affected by these changes, and we go through the changes that are new for that week. Now, there's a couple ways to do that. You could simply look through here and look at the last updated date and see what to go through. That is one way, but a way that I had been using for a while was to leverage the weekly digest. The Message Center will send you both the weekly digest as well as notifications of major changes. What I did for a while was I would take the weekly digest and use that as the agenda for our weekly review meeting. However, there's now a better way, and this is where Planner integration comes in. Microsoft Planner is a team task management tool, and Message Center now gives you the ability to convert posts in Message Center to tasks in Planner. So if you click on Planner Syncing, you get this task pane that lets you set the sync up, and you get to pick the plan that goes into and the bucket in the plan. For us, what that looks like is this. All of our Message Center posts once a week drop into this bucket, which of course we've called Microsoft Message Center, in our change management planner. And then on Monday, as a team, we review all of these and assign the ones that need further work to the appropriate people, or the ones that are simply informational and don't require further action, we just mark as completed and move on. The nice thing about having them in Planner is that as tasks, you do have that rich functionality around task management. You have the ability to assign it to a person. You have the ability to move it from one bucket to another. For us, if there's work to be done, we move it out of the Message Center bucket to one of our other buckets after we assign it to a person. We can change the progress to in progress. The start date is based on when it was published. The due date will be based on the details of the message. So for example, here it says timing is mid-October, and so we can pick October 15th or October 30th, depending on when we want to check on it. So that's Message Center. Now, if we want to look a little farther ahead, where we can go is we can go to the roadmap. So this is the Microsoft 365 roadmap, which covers everything in Microsoft 365. There's a shortcut for this, which is roadmap.office.com, and it redirects to Microsoft.com, this URL. Here you can see everything that is in development. Yes, there's 342 things in development as I was putting this presentation together yesterday. That is a lot of stuff going on, and this is how you can keep track of it and see when things will release. And again, the roadmap gives you a little farther ahead, anywhere from things landing in the next couple months to things landing next year. So that gives you the farthest ahead visibility of the things that are coming. My recommendation is to visit this at least once a month, if not twice a month. One thing you can do is there are filters on the left-hand side here, and using those filters, you can see what is new within the last week or last month and what's changed within those periods so that you can focus on the things that are new. Now, to look farther ahead than that, the last resource I recommend is the Book of News. There is a book of news that has been published with every Microsoft conference in the last year or two. Microsoft Ignite 2020, of course, will have a book of news. The book of news you see on screen is from Microsoft Build 2020 back in May. You just go to the table of contents, find the Microsoft 365 stuff, because this actually covers not just Microsoft 365, but Azure, Windows, security, everything that they're announcing is summarized in here. So this is a very concise way to get a summary of all the things that are new and notable, whether it's things that they're releasing to general availability this week, next week, or the bigger picture things that they're working on and will be delivering over the next 12 months. To review, there's 4 different time frames that you should be watching for. First of all, there's the things that have already landed in your tenant, and you can find those by watching the in-product tips and the What's New button in most of the Office applications. Next is the Message Center. That gives you that 1 to 2 month visibility. Message Center messages should be reviewed weekly. Planner can be used to make that easier. For things that are 1 to 4 quarters out, use the roadmap. For things that are either notably landing now or things that are bigger picture new items that are going to be delivered over the course of the next year, look at the announcements from the major Microsoft conferences, Build, Ignite, SharePoint Conference, and read the book of news from each of those events. This has been Michael Blumenthal. I'm a Microsoft MVP specializing in business productivity and service management. I've been doing this for quite a while. I've been in IT since 1995, working with SharePoint since SharePoint 2003 was in beta, working with Office 365 since 2014, and Microsoft Teams since 2016. My day job is I'm the Office 365 platform lead at a large multinational in the financial sector. I also lead the Office 365 Adoption User Group, Chicagoland chapter. You can find us on LinkedIn at this URL, and you can find our YouTube videos, which is recordings of our meetings and our future presentations from our speakers, at this URL. Here's my contact information. I'm always happy to answer questions about Office 365. Thank you very much.